Brad's question was about admiralty law, and
Yeah.
before you answered that, Jordan, I just wanted to make sure, how much longer do you think you can stay with us tonight? You're welcome to stay for the next hour and 13 minutes, which is the remainder of the show, or a half hour, whatever works for you.
I don't feel like staying on a whole bunch longer. Let's go to 11 now, see what I feel like.
Okay.
Because I'm almost 76 years old and I'm tired, but these subjects are so important. I really want people to understand how much they don't know, and start awakening to the fact that you need to do research. And I get so many people emailing me and saying, "Well, where do you start? Where in the world can I start?" Well, I started 55 years ago, and I can tell you where to start. Just go on my website. That's a good place to start. And on my research website, I've got links to all the people I think are important in the world, where they are, who they are, what they're doing, how to contact them, and hear them on YouTube or whatever. I try and make all the good people that I know and all the researchers and writers that I know that are very, very important, I try to make them all available to the world so everybody will know where to start doing research. Just go on my website. That's a good place to start. So when you're talking about admiralty law, we talked a little bit about it. That's why you got an admiral in the Navy, because of the word admiralty is a law. Where that came from is back in the Roman Empire. It was understood that there were only two things on the earth: dirt and water, land and sea. That's it. That's what the earth is, either land or sea. So the Romans divided their laws up between the law of the land and the law of the sea. And so today we use that term, the law of the land, never realizing the reason why you use that term, law of the land, because it's in opposition to something that's called the law of the sea. The law of the sea is called admiralty. So the law of the land is the law of the people who live on a particular piece of land. So the law of the land in China is different than the law of the land in South Africa, because the law of the land is the people who live on that land have their own customs, their own way of living. So it's called the law of the land. That's why when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. So if you're going to go to Europe, learn how to speak their language or live their lifestyle if you're going to fit in. So there's a law of the land, which is the law of the people who live on the land. But then there's a law of the sea, which is called maritime admiralty law. That's why you have admirals in the Navy. And why do you have a Navy? Because the body of a church, when you walk in, the church's body is called a nave, N-A-V-E. This is why you have a Navy, because it has to do with the admiralty. It has to do with the Holy See, where the Pope sits in the holy chair of St. Peter. The chair is called the Holy See, where he sits upon many waters, like the Bible says in Revelation. And so the Pope is the head of maritime admiralty, the Holy See, and this is where England and America get their commercial laws from the Vatican. The Vatican is the ultimate power behind England and America. It also is the ultimate power behind maritime admiralty. International maritime banking laws are all based on Vatican canon law. And this is why priests wear black robes, just as judges wear black robes, and rabbis wear black robes, and Darth Vader and Dracula, and God knows all the other
graduation outfits.
Yeah, it's the black robe represents something. People, when you graduate, you see kids coming out of college and university, never realizing what the word college, where it came from. So you go into college and you have no idea in the world where the word college came from and what it means. And it should tell you something, because in college, when you graduate, when you've been gradually indoctrinated, you graduate, you have a square mortarboard with a tassel on it. And the square mortarboard are usually black. And of course, you wear black robes when you graduate. The black square symbolizes the planet Saturn. That's another whole subject. Saturn is the god of the Hebrews. It's the god of law, the god of retribution. And so it's the Jewish god of law, Saturn. And Saturn is referred to as the Lord of the Rings. That's why the Jews in Hollywood are still making movies about their god, Lord of the Rings. Well, Saturn, the planet Saturn, is Lord of the Rings. And the symbol for Saturn and the astrological symbols of Saturn, the astronomical symbols, and the occult world of Hebrew occultism is a black square. This is why you wear the black square on the mortarboard.
And that's very similar to the Kaaba at Mecca.
That's exactly correct.
Or the
Kaaba is a black square. It's a Masonic, it's a Jewish symbol.
And the tefillin worn by the Jews.
Exactly, precisely. That's another black square. All of that is connected.
And it's also connected to the Borg.
Yep.
To the Borg in Star Trek.
Yes.
Yep. That's exactly right. So all of these things people look at, watching on television, watching in their movies, and watching Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, never for a moment realizing this is Jewish mysticism. It has to do with Jewish occultism, mysticism coming out of Hollywood. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again because it deals with the subject we're talking about. In Europe, way before the Roman Empire even existed, in Europe there was already an established order of things in Europe before the Roman Empire. And that established order is still there today. And it was called the Druid system. And the Druids were the powers of Europe even before the Roman Empire. They were in north, east, west, and south of Europe was under Druid domination. And one of the most important symbols, the Druids were the judges, the doctors, the lawyers, politicians, the mayors, all the important people in a Druid community, in the white man's community in Europe were called Druids.
Don't we get the Hollywood from the Hollywood?
Well, that's what I was about to say.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and so one of the most important symbols in the Druid system was a magic wand, like the orchestra leaders today. You see orchestra leaders leading the music. You play to their tune, not yours. You play to their orchestra. They're orchestrating the tune. So they are waving their magic wand, like Merlin the magician. And so magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of holly wood. And this is why today we have Hollywood with this magic working its magic on us. Yes, well, Jewish Hollywood has been working its magic on the American people and on the world for about 100 years now. And it's an extraordinary story of betrayal and manipulation and propaganda. That's why every time you see a Democratic president come in, there will always be movies in Hollywood about the Nazis, anti-Nazi films. And then when the Republicans get in, you will go back and see when the Republicans were a Republican president, there were anti-communist films. And the reason why is because the Republicans, were the Republican Party, as far back as 1945, 46, and 47, was being taken over by Operation Paperclip by the Nazis that were coming into America, and they were joining the Republican Party. So that today, the Republican Party, with the exception of a handful of good people in the Republican Party, but generally speaking, the Republican Party in America is a Nazi outfit. Nazi, as in NASA, N-A-S-A, NASA. Nazi. It's a Nazi operation. It's called the Republican Party, but actually it's filled with Nazis. And there's a few good people in the Republican Party who are good Americans, but The whole system is a Nazi movement, as opposed to the Democratic Party, which is a communist system, a Marxist-Leninist Soviet communist system. So in America today, you're either being ruled by Marxist-Leninist communists, like the old Soviet Union, or under Hitler and under the Nazi movement. So Republican Nazi, and they call that that's a two-party system, and we call it left and right, left wing and right wing. Why? Why is it called left wing and right wing? Because the American eagle only has two wings. It's got two wings, left wing and right wing. And on the bottom of the dollar bill, on the back of the dollar bill, you will see the eagle has 9 tail feathers. That's very important. Count them in the 9 tail feathers, because that represents the Council of Nine, which is something referred to as the Illuminati back in Europe. It's called the Council of Nine. Well, when you get into that Council of Nine, that's a whole story in itself, because we're told that the Knights Templars, there were 9 Templars, there were 9 knights, in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. With Indiana Jones, that was a whole story about the Knights Templars. And there were 9 of them, and they were supposedly the 9 knights that started what we call the Temple of Solomon, the Masonic Order of Temple, Knights Templars, and there were 9 of them. And the 9 Templars were to be on the road between Europe and the Middle East to protect the pilgrims who wanted to go to the Middle East, the 9 knights. Well, 9 people are not going to protect anybody. That's a lot of space to protect with 9 guys. So it's just a ruse. It's just a symbol. It's just a story. It has nothing to do with reality at all. No, the 9 knights that found the Knights Templars is actually the Council of Nine. Go look it up in a dictionary, Council of Nine, and you will see that's why the eagle has 9 feathers. All I'm saying is that all the stuff on our money and in our churches, in our synagogues, in the mosque, all of the different religious symbols, all of our symbols in banks and universities and colleges and police departments and sheriff's department, and all the symbols and emblems. Everybody wears uniforms. The cops have uniforms. The firemen have uniforms. The children going to parochial schools have uniforms. You're going to work in a restaurant, you have to have a uniform. Why? Because it's all under Uniform Commercial Code. Uniformity. That's why they want uniformity. Everybody's got to be in compliance with the business. It's all money and business and control of the human resource. So all of this stuff is hidden from the American people. It's hidden from the world. And I've been trying for some 55 years to wake people up to the fact that nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Nothing.
Jordan, I have a couple questions from listeners. I don't know how much time we have. Maybe if you could just answer these briefly. There's a question from Brandon in Alaska. He just asks about the word love being altered from its original form.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole story too, because love in the Greek, I think there's at least 4 different kinds of love in the Greek. Incidentally, that question reminds me that in the Bible, Christians will tell you that God is love. God is love. Well, in point of fact, that's not what it says at all. It doesn't say that. Go back to the text and it will tell you, it says God is Jove, Jove, not Love, Jove. God is Jove. Why? Because Jupiter. That's a whole story, where the gods of Christianity and Judaism have come from. They're the gods of the stars. It's Jupiter. And Pater. Pater was a father in Jew. Pater was the father of the Jews. We call him Jupater or Jupiter. And my God, when we get into religion and theology, there's a big story there. I mean, we could go on for hours about religion.
We'd be here all night.
All night on that subject, boy. I mean,
I wanted to comment also, you mentioned the eagle. It's very similar to the German eagle, the phoenix, the Bennu bird. Even the obelisk we talked about earlier, this phallic symbol, this frozen ray of sunlight, male creative force. You see this in Washington, D.C.
That's exactly right.
You see this in the Vatican, St. Peter's Basilica. You see it in London, all over the world, major financial, military, and political centers. It's all over the place. It's all around us.
Everywhere. That's why the Bible says the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. Not the whole world except America. No, the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. Meaning, quite simply, the entire earth is covered with demonic depravity, lies, deception, symbols, secrets, and being run from behind the scenes by people you have no idea who they are and how this system started, who's running it now, and where it's going to go.
Jordan, I have two quick questions for you. Then I'll pass it to Jack for his final thoughts, and I'll allow you to wrap up. I know you have to go here, and because we could talk all night. The first question, if you could just briefly touch on it, it's my one question I wanted to ask you. One of the things I focus on is also theology and symbolism and the occult and rituals. And when I watch something like a Super Bowl or the Olympics that are coming up, or when I see these so-called mass shootings, the numerology associated with them, the symbols, the names.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a big ritual?
Oh, yes. That's what it is. Yeah. There's a whole story about that. The lady you're going to have on, you're going to have on this lady who is she's absolutely sensational. Her name is Tracy, Tracy, Tracy Twyman, Twyman. Tracy Twyman. Tracy is extraordinary. She's really fascinating to listen to about rituals or ritual killings and the dates and why certain things happen on certain dates and why it happened in France and what it means or what these words and terms mean, why they're called ICES. It's a hell of a story about the hidden symbolism of secret societies and occult orders that are operating in the world today. We know that there's secret societies. We know about the mafia. We know about the organized crime and the Chinese Tong societies and the Japanese Yakuza and all these major criminal elements in all the different countries of the world. But nobody seems to realize that there's something even bigger, far, far bigger, some sort of an overwhelming, all-encompassing criminal empire that's been around for tens of thousands of years. Mm-hmm. And you begin to see the symbols and emblems of these criminal empires and governments, churches, religions.
Well, it's just like the wealthy when you see these Forbes 50 wealthiest men and women in the world, but you never see the Rothschilds or Rockefellers, any of these big families mentioned.
That's right. Yeah, it's quite a story about how much we don't know, how much we've never been told. And again, I just do what I do because that's who I am and that's what I do. And I hear people telling me, well, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I say, yeah, it's a train coming, airhead. And
that was actually my final question for you, and then I'll pass it to Jack for his final thoughts. What do you see changing? What do you see happening in the next few years? Where are we headed? If you can give us any idea of your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I don't think you want to hear them.
Well, I might. Some people might not want to, but I'd like to hear what you think.
Well, I think where we're heading, people like to tell me, well, I hear this all the time. Well, people are waking up, People are starting to wake up. To my answer to that is, yes, that's what prisoners do in a federal penitentiary. Every morning they wake up. And so, yeah, the people are waking up. They're still in prison, and they're not going anywhere. But at least they're waking up to the fact that they're not going anywhere and they're in prison. So what does that mean? They're going to change anything? No, they're not going to change nothing. They can't change anything. You can't change anything. Americans cannot change a thing. You can elect your leaders, but you cannot select your leaders. You can only elect, not select. So Americans are not able to change anything. Why? Because change, you don't have the power to change anything. You've got to have power to change things, and Americans don't have any power to change nothing. Why? Simple. Knowledge is power. If you don't know what's going on, then you have no knowledge. And without knowledge, there is no power. Knowledge itself is power. So once you understand how the world works, once you finally get it, and you finally see how this world really works, and how this thing has actually been put together thousands of years ago, and understand the words and the institutions and all the symbols and government and commerce and religion, and begin to see why churches are divided into denominations like 50s and 100s, and that's the way they divide money, as into denominations. So churches are nothing more than money corporations to make money, period. It's got anything to do with God or the Lord, or it's money. Denominations.
It's a collection of money, collection plates.
A collection of money, period. And so, until and unless people wake up and start educating themselves, they will begin to see the horrible things coming, but there's nothing they can do about it. Why? Because they don't understand how it works. So, I mean, you can have a beautiful new car, but if you don't know how it works and it breaks down in the desert, you're probably going to die, because if you don't know how it works, you don't know what to fix, you don't know what the problem is. All you know is it don't work. Well, your government don't work, but you don't know why, and you don't know how it don't work. You just know it's not working the way you thought it was. So that's what that's what I do. I try and educate people the best I can at 76 years old.
Well, Jordan, I'm sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go on. What were you saying?
I was just going to pass it along to Jack, pass the baton to Jack real fast. Jack, do you have any final comments or questions for Jordan?
Oh, I have a list a mile long.
Believe me, I do too.
Man, Jordan, unbelievable the amount of information that you're just a stream of information. But we were talking earlier before the broadcast, and earlier in this broadcast, you had mentioned that there generally are dark ETs that are here. Obviously, I would have to conclude that this whole system was created and orchestrated by some other force, some darker entity, some ET. Then when we were talking before, you said pretty much that your thoughts were the only way that this world is going to change is if some form of benevolent ETs intervene.
Yep. And the reason why I say that is because mankind, as far back as I can go in history, which is about 10,000 years of, history of the earth goes back billions of years. We know that there were high civilizations on this earth billions of years ago. We know that. Billions with a B. There were highly intelligent races on this earth billions of years ago. We have artifacts that are found way down in the earth in strata, which is 3.5 to 4 billion years old, handmade artifacts. So we know somebody was on this earth 4 billion years ago. But nobody's talking about that. We're not supposed to know anything about it because it's not important. It has nothing to do with Paris Hilton or a football game, so we don't talk about it. But myself, I think that's pretty damn exciting to find out that there were civilizations on this earth billions of years ago, not millions. And that's a whole story of getting into who are we and where did we come from. But the point is that I don't even know what the point is. I'm getting off of this.
Well, we were talking about ETs, positive ETs potentially coming to bail humanity out.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that unless there is somebody out there in the heavens who are watching us, unless there is somebody out there who is watching us and will step in and intervene in our natural evolution and then intervene in our business, we are doomed, because the human race has never, in 10,000 years of history I know of, the human race has never and is not now and never will rise up to protect itself, because the human race cannot protect itself. It cannot protect itself from the predators, just as the hundreds of zebras and water buffalo out on the Serengeti plains of Africa cannot protect themselves from the 6 lions. All they can do is run. When the lions show up, they run, because they cannot protect themselves. Yeah, they got horns and they're big and they can do something, but they don't. They just run. And so that's the way the human race is. If there's any kind of predators out there, the human race can't do anything about it. We just go along to get along, because we don't know what's going on. Nobody's ever told us anything. So, knowledge is power, and we don't have any knowledge. That's why we have no power. So that's what I'm trying to do, is empower people with knowledge.
That's the theme of this show, Jordan, empowering and taking responsibility, trying to provide people with knowledge, with information, so that they can empower themselves, defend themselves, take responsibility. Jordan, thank you so much. As I said a couple of times, you were a big inspiration for me growing up as a kid, and sort of, most people know I'm only 25 years old, and I really, that old saying that's very desensitized, we're desensitized to it now, of waking up. I woke up, opened my eyes in that prison about 17 years old. And since then, I've learned, obviously, a great deal, and I've suffered a form of mystery school death in society where it's difficult to even function.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced this, too.
Yep. Yeah, we all do. We all do.
Well,
but that's it's the price you pay for wanting to know. That's why ignorance is bliss. It's much better for you. Just drink your beer and watch a ball game. Don't worry about it, because
that's right. Not
just play stupid, play dumb. You'll be okay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's everything in moderation. Jordan Maxwell, our guest this evening. The website, jordanmaxwellshow.com. That's jordanmaxwellshow.com. His research website, Jack already signed up. I'm going to be signing up after the show. $30 lifetime membership to Jordan's research, jordanmaxwellresearch.is. You can also find those links if you're on our website, www.thesecretteachings.info. And if you're there, $10 for a monthly subscription to The Secret Teachings. The show airs live every Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Mountain, and 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Secret Teachings. And my email, rdgable@yahoo.com, to contact me directly. Jordan.